I heard Leah before I saw anything. "Hi, welcome to my mama's cafe." And I turned from the pastry case with a laugh that died in my throat when I saw Darius Marchese standing motionless just inside the door, staring at my almost 4-year-old daughter like she was a ghost, before his gaze cut to me with the force of a blade. The ceramic plate I was holding slipped from my fingers. I caught it before it hit the counter, but my hands were shaking. 4 years. 4 years of hiding, of building this small, careful life in a city where no one knew my name or my past. 4 years of telling myself I was safe, and he'd just walked through my door. "Mama makes the best cookies," Leah was saying, utterly oblivious to the way the air had thickened. "Do you want cookies?" Darius didn't answer her. He couldn't seem to look away from her face, the dark curls, the olive skin, the gray eyes that were an exact mirror of his own. Then his attention shifted to the back corner booth where Rio sat with his coloring book, tongue poking out in concentration as he drew what looked like a very ambitious dinosaur. 2 men in dark suits had followed Darius inside. They flanked him now, scanning the cafe with the practiced efficiency of bodyguards. But even they had gone still when they saw the children. "Leah, baby," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. "Go help your brother with his drawing, okay?" "But Mama, the nice man." "Now, sweetheart." Something in my tone made her pout, but she skipped back to Rio without argument. I watched her go, using those precious seconds to force air into my lungs and steel my spine. When I looked back at Darius, he'd moved closer to the counter. Close enough that I could see the muscle ticking in his jaw. Close enough that his cologne hit me like a physical blow, dragging up memories I'd spent years trying to bury. "Sarah." My name came out rough, dangerous. The cafe was empty except for an elderly regular in the far corner, absorbed in her crossword puzzle. The lunch rush had ended 20 minutes ago. I'd been counting on the lull to prep for the dinner crowd. I should have known better than to count on anything. "We're closed for cleaning," I said. "You'll have to come back later." One of his men made a noise that might have been a laugh. Darius silenced him with a look that could have stripped paint. "Closed," he repeated, his gaze flicking to the open sign still glowing in the window. "How convenient." "I can flip the sign if it'll make you leave faster." The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but fear had always made me reckless. It was how I'd survived the first time, pure defiance when everything in me wanted to crumble. His eyes narrowed. 4 years, Sarah. 4 years you've been gone, and now I find you here, running a cafe. His attention shifted back to the twins, with children who have my face. My heart was a drum against my ribs. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't." The single word cracked, like a whip. "Don't insult both of us by lying. Not about this." Rio chose that moment to look up from his coloring. His eyes, those devastating Marchese eyes, met Darius's across the cafe, and I watched my son's expression shift from curiosity to uncertainty. He was sensitive, my Rio. He could feel tension the way some people felt weather changes. "Mama," his voice was small. "It's okay, baby. These men are just leaving." "We're not leaving." Darius hadn't looked away from Rio. Something raw and almost wounded had crept into his expression, softening the hard lines of his face. "Not until we talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "You stole my children." The accusation hung in the air between us, sharp enough to draw blood. I felt my nails dig into my palms. "I saved them," I said quietly. "From you, from that world, from all of it." His head snapped back like I'd slapped him. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he took a step closer, and I forced myself not to retreat, even though every instinct screamed at me to put more distance between us. "We'll talk," he said, his voice dropping to something almost gentle, almost. "Tonight, after you close. And if I refuse, then I'll come back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that." He glanced at the twins again, his jaw tight. "I'm not walking away from this, Sarah. Not this time." The elderly woman in the corner stood up, gathering her things with the efficient speed of someone who'd just realized she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She hurried out, and the bell above the door chimed in her wake. We were alone now. Me, Darius, his guards, and my children. 7 o'clock, I heard myself say. The cafe closes at 6. Give me an hour to get the twins settled. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. He'd expected more of a fight. 7 o'clock, he agreed. Then to his men, "Let's go." They moved toward the door, but Darius paused halfway there. He turned back, his gaze finding mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "They have names?" I could have refused to answer. Should have, but my mouth opened anyway. "Rio and Aurelia. We call her Leah." "Rio." He tested the name like he was tasting wine. "And Leah." Then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him with a soft chime that felt obscenely cheerful, given what had just happened. I stood there for a long moment, my hands braced on the counter, trying to remember how to breathe, trying to remember how to think. "Mama?" Leah appeared at my elbow, tugging on my apron. Who was that man? He looked sad. I crouched down, pulling her into my arms and breathing in the vanilla and crayon smell of her hair. Rio had climbed out of the booth and came over too, tucking himself against my side. "Just someone Mama used to know," I said. "A long time ago." "Is he coming back?" God, yes, he was coming back. And when he did, everything I'd built here, this safe, small life, was going to shatter. "Maybe," I told her, "but it's okay. Mama's got everything under control." It was the biggest lie I'd told in 4 years. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of mechanical motions. The twins were almost 4 now, old enough for preschool and big feelings, still small enough to think hot chocolate could fix anything. I served customers, made coffee, wiped tables, smiled when I was supposed to smile. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. I kept seeing Darius's face when he'd looked at the twins. The shock, the recognition, the something else I couldn't quite name. Something that had looked almost like grief. He'd believed I betrayed him. That much had been clear 4 years ago when his aunt had shown me the evidence and given me a choice. Disappear and live, or stay and watch him destroy me for a treason I hadn't committed. I'd chosen life. I'd chosen my unborn children. But now he was here, and I didn't know if he still believed the lie, or if he'd come looking for answers. Either way, I was trapped. At 5:30, I called my neighbor, a kind woman in her 60s, who sometimes watched the twins when I needed an extra hand. She agreed to take them for the evening, asking no questions when she heard the strain in my voice. By 6:15, the cafe was empty and locked. The twins were safely at Mrs. Chen's apartment upstairs, and I was alone, waiting. I didn't have to wait long. At 6:55, 3 sharp knocks rattled the front door. I changed out of my apron and into jeans and a simple sweater, trying to look less like a frightened cafe owner and more like a woman who had her life together. It didn't work. I could see my reflection in the darkened window, pale, hollow-eyed, braced for impact. I unlocked the door. Darius stood alone this time. No guards, no entourage. Just him, looking at me like I was a puzzle he'd been trying to solve for years. "Can I come in?" I stepped back without a word. He moved past me and I caught that scent again, cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. It dragged me back to a different time, when I'd been young and stupid enough to think love could protect me from monsters. I locked the door behind him and turned to find him studying the cafe, taking in the mismatched chairs I'd refinished myself, the chalkboard menu, the photos on the wall, mostly landscapes, nothing personal. His gaze snagged on a child's drawing taped near the register. 2 stick figures holding hands under a crayon sun. "They're mine." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "You were pregnant when you left." "Yes." He turned to face me fully, and I saw the leash he'd had on his control starting to fray. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have killed me before I could." The words came out flat. Factual. "Your aunt showed me the evidence. The bank transfers, the messages, the meeting with your enemies. She said you'd already signed the order, that I had 12 hours to disappear or I'd disappear permanently." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "My aunt. Don't pretend you don't know. She's been your right hand for years." "And you believed her? Just like that?" I laughed, and it came out bitter. "She had proof, Darius. Photographs, account numbers. She said you were going to make an example of me, that after my body was found, no one would ever dare betray the Marchese family again. So you ran. I survived." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold. I did what I had to do to protect our children from a father who wanted their mother dead. He was across the space between us before I could blink, his hands gripping my upper arms, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to keep me from pulling away. I never wanted you dead, he said, his voice low and fierce. Whatever my aunt told you, whatever evidence she had, I never signed an order. I never would have. I stared up at him, searching his face for the lie. But all I saw was fury and something that looked almost like anguish. Then why did she show me proof, I whispered. Why did she give me 12 hours and a car with cash in the glove box? His grip tightened fractionally, then released. He stepped back, dragging a hand through his hair in a gesture I remembered, frustration, barely contained. I don't know, he admitted, but I'm going to find out. It's been 4 years. Does it even matter anymore? You had my children in hiding because you thought I wanted you dead. Yes, Sarah, it fucking matters. The profanity hung in the air between us. I'd heard him curse before, but never like this. Never with this kind of raw emotion bleeding through. Someone set you up, he continued, pacing now. Someone close enough to access accounts, forge messages, create a convincing case, and my aunt was in the perfect position to do it. Why would she? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. He stopped pacing and fixed me with a look that pinned me in place. And you're going to help me? No. Sarah? No. I straightened my spine, even though my legs were shaking. I've spent 4 years building a life away from all of that. The violence, the threats, the constant looking over my shoulder. I'm not dragging my children back into it. They're already in it. His voice was gentle now, deadly gentle. The moment I walked through that door, they became targets. Everyone who saw me here, every camera that might have caught us, word will spread. And when it does, every enemy I have will see them as leverage. Ice flooded my veins. You're lying. I wish I was. He moved closer again, and this time I did back up until my spine hit the counter. But the truth is, your only option now is protection. Real protection, the kind I can provide. In exchange for what? Help me figure out what happened 4 years ago. Who set you up, why my aunt was involved, what the endgame was. His hand came up, fingers grazing my jaw in a touch that was far too familiar. Work with me, Sarah, not because I'm demanding it, but because it's the only way to keep Rio and Leah safe. I closed my eyes against the feeling of his touch, against the memories it stirred up, against the terrible truth that he was right. What do you want from me? I asked. Everything you remember about that night. Every detail, every conversation, every piece of evidence she showed you. And then, he paused, and when I opened my eyes, his face was inches from mine. Then you let me back into their lives, into your life. You let me be what I should have been 4 years ago. Their father. Yes, my heart was racing again, but this time it wasn't just fear. It was something more complicated, something that tasted like regret and fury and the ghost of what we'd once been to each other. I have conditions, I said. A slight smile curved his mouth. I'd expect nothing less. The twins don't know who you are. Not yet. I won't lie to them, but I also won't throw you at them and expect them to understand. Agreed. My cafe stays open. I've worked too hard to build this place to let it fall apart now. I'll assign security, discreetly. And if this goes wrong, if your enemies come for us, you get us out. New identities, new city, whatever it takes. His expression hardened. It won't come to that. Promise me anyway. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he nodded, slow and deliberate. You have my word. If it comes to that, I'll make sure you and the twins disappear so completely that even I won't be able to find you. It should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a door closing on something I hadn't even realized I wanted to keep open. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll help you. Good, he stepped back, giving me space to breathe again. We start tomorrow. I'll send a car at 8. The twins have preschool at 8:30. Then I'll have a driver take them. You and I have work to do. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion was crashing over me in waves. I'd been running on adrenaline since the moment he'd walked in, and now that we'd reached some kind of agreement, my body was starting to shut down. Fine, I said. 8 o'clock. He moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the lock. When he looked back at me, something in his expression had softened. They're beautiful, Sarah, our children. You did well. The compliment hit me harder than any threat could have. I felt my throat tighten, tears burning behind my eyes that I absolutely refused to let fall. I did my best, I managed. I know. He unlocked the door, stepping out into the night. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Then he was gone, and I was alone in my cafe with the weight of what I'd just agreed to pressing down on my chest like a stone. I'd walked back into Darius Marchese's world. God help me. God help us all. The car arrived at exactly 8 a.m. I'd been awake since 5, unable to sleep after Mrs. Chen brought the twins back. They'd ask questions about why they had to stay upstairs, why Mama looked so tired, why that sad man from yesterday was so important. I'd deflected as best I could, but Rio's gray eyes had stayed thoughtful all through breakfast. He knew something had shifted. He just didn't know what. The driver was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a shoulder holster visible under her blazer. She introduced herself as Angela and promised to have the twins at Little Stars preschool by 8:25. Mama has to work today, I told Rio and Leah, crouching down to their level. Miss Angela is going to take you to school, okay? Is she your friend? Leah asked, eyeing Angela with the suspicion of a 4-year-old who knew all of Mama's actual friends. She's helping Mama out. Be good, okay? Both of you. Rio hugged me tight, his small arms fierce around my neck. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. So much. I watched from the cafe window as Angela buckled them into car seats. Expensive ones, I noticed, already installed and properly fitted. Darius had been thorough. The moment their car disappeared around the corner, a black SUV pulled up. The back door opened, and I didn't need an invitation to know it was for me. I grabbed my jacket and locked the cafe behind me. The man who opened the SUV door was one of yesterday's guards, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. He nodded at me but didn't speak as I climbed in. Darius sat in the back, a tablet in his hands, his attention focused on whatever was on the screen. He looked up when I settled into the seat beside him. Good morning. Is it? I buckled my seatbelt with more force than necessary. Because from where I'm sitting, I just put my children in a car with a stranger, and I'm about to spend my day investigating a 4-year-old betrayal that almost got me killed. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Fair point. The SUV pulled into traffic, and I forced myself to breathe. The interior smelled like leather and his cologne, and the proximity was doing things to my pulse that I absolutely did not want to examine. Where are we going? My office. I have the original files from 4 years ago, everything my aunt showed me after you disappeared. We'll start there. And if someone sees me, if word gets out that I'm back? Word's already out. He set the tablet aside and turned to face me fully. 3 of my men saw you yesterday. By midnight, half the families in the city knew Sarah Albright was alive and running a cafe in the East Quarter. My stomach dropped. Jesus. Which is why Angela is trained in defensive driving, and the twins' preschool is now under discreet surveillance. 2 of my best people, rotating shifts. You can't just, I can, and I did. His tone left no room for argument. You agreed to this, Sarah. Protection means I do what's necessary. I wanted to snap at him, to tell him he didn't get to make decisions about my children without consulting me first. But the truth was, he was right. I'd walked back into his world last night, and in his world, security wasn't negotiable. Fine, I said. But I want to meet them, the people watching my kids. Done. We'll make time this afternoon. The SUV turned onto a street I recognized. Downtown financial district. The kind of area where legitimate businesses operated in glass towers, while other business happened in the floors no elevator reached. We pulled into an underground garage, and the driver navigated through security checkpoints with the ease of routine. When we finally stopped, Darius was out of the vehicle before I could move. He opened my door himself, offering a hand I pretended not to see as I climbed out. His office was on the 18th floor. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of machinery and the too loud sound of my own breathing. When the doors opened, I stepped into a reception area that screamed money and power. Marble floors, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than my cafe's entire lease. A woman at the desk looked up, her expression politely neutral. "Good morning, Mr. Marchese. Hold my calls, Vivian. We're not to be disturbed." Of course. He led me past her desk and down a hallway lined with closed doors. His office was at the end, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. I hated that I noticed. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather chair across from his desk. I sat, watching as he moved to a wall panel and pressed his palm against it. A hidden door slid open, revealing a safe. He entered a code, then pulled out a thick manila folder. When he set it on the desk between us, I felt my chest tighten. "This is everything," he said quietly. "Bank statements, wire transfers, photographs, communications. Everything my aunt gave me the night you disappeared." I stared at the folder like it might bite me. "I need you to look at it, Sarah. Tell me if any of it's familiar, if there's anything you recognize that I might have missed." Slowly, I reached for the folder. My hands were steady as I opened it, but my heart was racing. The first page was a bank statement. My name at the top, an account number I'd never seen before, and a series of deposits totaling $250,000 over 3 months. "I never opened this account," I said. "I know that now." I flipped to the next page. Screenshots of text messages, supposedly between me and someone listed as VR in the contacts. The messages discussed shipment routes, security weaknesses, payoffs. I don't know anyone with those initials. Keep going. Photographs next. Me outside a restaurant I'd been to once. A business dinner with some of Darius's associates. But in these photos, I was with a man I didn't recognize. The angle made it look intimate, conspiratorial. "This is photoshopped," I said immediately. "I was at that dinner, but not with him. I was with your cousin Marco and his wife. There were 6 of us at the table." Darius leaned forward. "You're sure?" "Positive. It was the night before everything happened. Marco's wife was pregnant and couldn't drink, so we spent half the night debating baby names." He pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "Get me Marco, now." A pause. "I don't care if he's in a meeting. Get him." While we waited, I kept flipping through the file. More bank statements, more messages, more photographs. Each one was damning. Each one was also wrong in small but critical ways. Wrong dates, wrong locations, wrong context. "This is good work," I said finally. "Whoever did this knew enough to make it believable, but not enough to make it perfect." "What do you mean?" I pointed to one of the message screenshots. This conversation supposedly happened on a Tuesday at 2 p.m., but I worked every Tuesday afternoon at the community center. I taught art classes to kids. There were witnesses, sign-in sheets, everything. His jaw tightened. "My aunt would have known that. Would she?" "She knew everything about my life, and you were part of my life then." I met his eyes. "Or maybe she knew just enough to be dangerous." His phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then his expression went dark. "What do you mean he's not available?" A pause. "Find him. And when you do, tell him I need to speak with him immediately about the dinner 4 years ago, the one with his wife and Sarah Albright." He ended the call with more force than necessary. "Marco's not answering," I guessed. "Marco hasn't been seen in 3 days. His wife says he's on business in Miami, but no one on my Miami team has seen him." The room suddenly felt colder. "Darius, keep looking. Tell me what else is wrong." I forced myself to focus on the file, flipping through page after page of fabricated evidence. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. A photograph of a handwritten note, my handwriting, or a damn good forgery of it. "I'm sorry. They offered me a way out, and I took it. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't look for me. S." "I never wrote this," I whispered. "I know." "No, Darius, you don't understand. I never wrote this because the night your aunt came to me, she didn't ask for a confession or a note. She just showed me the evidence and told me to run." He'd gone very still. "Say that again." "She showed me this exact file, or most of it, and said you'd already seen it, that you'd signed off on my execution. She gave me a car, cash, and 12 hours. I looked up at him. She never asked me to write a goodbye note, so where did this come from? The silence stretched between us, heavy with implications. She wrote it herself, Darius said finally. Or had someone else do it. She needed me to believe you'd confessed, that you'd run because you were guilty. But why? What did she gain from getting rid of me? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. He stood, pacing to the windows. The morning light caught the sharp lines of his profile, and for a moment he looked exactly like Rio when my son was working through a difficult problem. There's something else, I said quietly. The note, the handwriting. What about it? It's good, but it's not perfect. See the way the S curves? I always add a little flourish at the bottom, habit from when I worked at that stationery shop in college. This one's too neat, too careful. He was back at the desk in 3 strides, studying the note with new intensity. You're right. Which means whoever forged it knew my handwriting well enough to copy it, but didn't know my personal quirks. My aunt had access to documents you'd signed, contracts, forms, anything I kept in my files about you. So she could have copied my basic handwriting, but not the small details. Yes. He looked at me, and something in his expression had shifted. You're good at this. At what? Seeing patterns, details other people miss. He leaned back against the desk, arms crossed. My security chief has been going over this file for 4 years. He never caught the handwriting discrepancy. Maybe he wasn't looking for it. Or maybe he didn't want to find it. The implication hung between us. How deep did this go? How many people had my aunt compromised? Before I could respond, his phone rang again. He glanced at the screen and frowned. What is it? Angela. She never calls unless... He answered immediately. Talk to me. I watched his face go from neutral to dangerous in the space of a heartbeat. When? A pause. Are they hurt? Another pause. Get them to the safe location. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at me, his voice deadly calm. Someone tried to follow the twins' car from preschool. My world tilted. What? Angela spotted the tail, lost them in traffic, and took the twins to a secure location. They're fine, Sarah. Scared, but fine. I was already moving toward the door, but he caught my arm. We do this smart. My car is in the garage, already prepped for evasion. Angela's not alone. She has backup, and the location is one of my most secure properties. Let go of me. Not until you hear me. If we panic, if we run in blind, we put them in more danger. We go together, we go careful, and we trust that Angela knows what she's doing. I wanted to scream, to fight, to tear free and run to my babies. But his eyes held mine, steady and sure, and some small rational part of my brain knew he was right. If anything happens to them, it won't. You can't promise that. No, he agreed. But I can promise I'll burn down this entire city before I let anyone hurt our children. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it steadied something wild and frantic in my chest. Then let's go. The drive took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Darius was on the phone the entire time, barking orders, getting updates, coordinating security. I sat rigid in my seat, my nails digging crescents into my palms. They're okay, he said at one point, covering the phone's mic. Angela just confirmed. Rio's asking questions. Leah's singing to herself. They're scared, but not traumatized. Yet. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The safe location turned out to be a brownstone in a quiet residential neighborhood, the kind of place that looked completely unremarkable from the outside. But when we pulled up, I spotted at least 3 guards positioned at strategic points around the property. I was out of the SUV before it fully stopped. Angela met me at the door, and the relief on her face told me everything I needed to know. They're in the kitchen. I promised them hot chocolate. I pushed past her, following the sound of Leah's voice down a hallway into a bright, modern kitchen. Both twins sat at a breakfast bar, their legs swinging, mugs of hot chocolate in front of them. When Rio saw me, his face crumpled. Mama, I caught him as he launched himself at me, Leah right behind him. I sank to my knees and pulled them both close, breathing in the familiar scent of them, feeling their solid warmth against me. I've got you, I whispered. I've got you, babies. You're okay. There was a scary car, Leah said into my shoulder. But Miss Angela drove really fast, and it was like a race. Rio said nothing, just held on tighter. When I finally looked up, Darius stood in the doorway. He was watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read, something raw and almost broken. Our eyes met across the kitchen, and I saw him mouth 2 words. I'm sorry. I didn't know if he was apologizing for today, for yesterday, for 4 years ago, or for all of it. But I nodded once, acknowledging it, before turning my attention back to the twins. You were both so brave, I told them. Miss Angela says you didn't cry or panic. Rio held my hand, Leah said proudly. He said Mama would find us. My throat tightened. Of course I found you. I'll always find you. Darius moved into the room then, slowly, like he was approaching something wild that might bolt. He stopped a few feet away, his hands in his pockets. Hi, he said quietly. Both twins turned to look at him. Rio's grip on my arm tightened. You're the sad man from Mama's cafe, Leah said. I am. Are you still sad? His mouth curved in something that might have been a smile. A little less sad now that I know you're both okay. Did you know about the scary car? Rio asked, his voice suspicious. No, but I'm going to make sure no scary cars ever follow you again. How? By being very, very careful about who gets close to you and your sister, and your mama. Rio considered this, his almost 4-year-old mind working through implications he was too young to fully understand. Are you Mama's friend? Darius's eyes flicked to mine, a question there. I took a breath. He's someone Mama used to know, someone important. Important how? That's a conversation for another day, I said gently. Right now, how about we finish that hot chocolate and then maybe watch a movie? Would you like that? Leah perked up immediately, but Rio kept his gaze on Darius. Will you stay? My son asked him. Something shifted in Darius's expression. Do you want me to? Rio thought about it, then nodded slowly. Mama looks less scared when you're here. I felt my heart crack open. Then I'll stay, Darius said simply. The movie was some animated thing about talking animals, but I couldn't have told you the plot if my life depended on it. I sat on the couch with Leah curled against my left side and Rio against my right, hyper-aware of Darius in the armchair across from us. He'd taken off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves at some point. Now he sat forward, elbows on his knees, watching the screen with the same intensity he probably used in business negotiations. When Leah laughed at something, his gaze shifted to her, and I watched something soften in his face. Rio had fallen asleep halfway through, his head heavy on my shoulder. His breathing was even, peaceful, but I knew he'd have nightmares tonight. He always did when something scared him. When the credits rolled, Leah looked up at me with drowsy eyes. Can we stay here tonight, Mama? This house has really soft blankets. I glanced at Darius. He nodded once. Yeah, baby, we'll stay here tonight. Will the sad man stay too? His name is Darius, I said gently. And yes, I think he will. Good, she yawned, stretching like a cat. I like him, he has nice eyes. Darius's mouth twitched. Thank you, Leah. They're like Rio's eyes, and Mama's eyes are different, brown and pretty. Your Mama's eyes are very pretty, Darius agreed, and his gaze found mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. I looked away first. Okay, bedtime. Let's get you both upstairs. Angela appeared as if summoned, offering to help get the twins settled. I carried Rio, he barely stirred, while she guided Leah up a curved staircase to a bedroom that had clearly been prepared in advance. 2 twin beds with fresh sheets, a nightlight already glowing, even a basket of stuffed animals in the corner. How long have you had this place set up for children? I asked Darius, who'd followed us up. Since yesterday, after I left your cafe, I had 3 properties prepared as potential safe locations. This one tested best for accessibility and security. Of course he did. Darius Marchese didn't do anything halfway. I tucked Rio in first, brushing his dark curls back from his forehead. He mumbled something in his sleep and rolled toward the wall. Leah was already half asleep by the time I kissed her goodnight, her small hand clutching a purple elephant from the basket. Good night, Mama, she whispered. Good night, Darius. He'd been standing in the doorway, But at her words, he moved closer. Carefully, like he was handling something precious and breakable, he reached out and tucked the blanket around her shoulders. "Good night, Leah." Her eyes were already closed. I ushered him out of the room, pulling the door mostly closed behind us. In the hallway, I finally let myself sag against the wall. "They're resilient," Darius said quietly. "Stronger than you think. They shouldn't have to be. No, they shouldn't." He turned to face me fully. "But they are, because you raised them to be. Even when you were alone and terrified, you made them strong." The compliment hit harder than it should have. I pressed my palms against my eyes, suddenly exhausted. "Come on," he said. "We need to talk, and you need food. When's the last time you ate?" I tried to remember and couldn't. "Exactly. Kitchen. Now." I followed him downstairs, too tired to argue. The safe house had been stocked with actual food. Not just bachelor basics, but real ingredients. Darius moved through the kitchen with surprising competence, pulling out bread, cheese, and cold cuts. "You cook now?" I asked, sliding onto a bar stool. "I make sandwiches. There's a difference." He assembled 2 plates with efficient movements. "Angela's people brought groceries this afternoon, including the hot chocolate mix, apparently. She's good with them, the twins. She has 3 kids of her own. Teenagers now, but she remembers the young years." He slid a plate toward me. "Eat." I picked up the sandwich and took a bite, realizing only when I tasted food that I was starving. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the quiet broken only by the distant hum of security systems and the occasional creak of the house settling. "Tell me about the cafe," Darius said finally. "How you started it." "Why?" "Because I want to know. 4 years, Sarah. 4 years you built a life without me. I want to understand what that life looked like." I set down my sandwich, studying him. There was genuine curiosity in his expression, and something else, something that looked almost like regret. "I worked 3 jobs the first year," I said. "Waitressing, house cleaning, and overnight stocking at a grocery store. I was pregnant, exhausted, and terrified someone would recognize me. But I saved every penny I could." "You were pregnant with twins and working 3 jobs." "I didn't have a choice. The money your aunt gave me ran out after 6 months. Rent, medical bills, baby supplies. I had to work." I picked at the crust of my bread. "When the twins were born, I had to cut back to 2 jobs. A neighbor watched them during the day, and I worked nights. It was hell, but we survived." His jaw had gone tight. "Go on." "When they were 2, I saw the cafe space available. It was a dump, broken equipment, water damage, terrible location. But the rent was cheap, and the owner was desperate. I convinced him to let me pay in installments if I fixed it up myself." "Yourself?" "I watched a lot of YouTube videos, learned basic electrical work, plumbing, carpentry. Turned out I was decent at it." I smiled at the memory despite everything. The twins would sit in their playpen and watch me work. Rio started handing me tools before he could talk properly. He understood what a wrench was before he understood the word please. Something flickered in Darius's eyes. "I should have been there. You thought I was a traitor. I should have questioned it. Should have dug deeper, demanded proof beyond what my aunt showed me. But I was—" He stopped, jaw working. "You were what?" "Destroyed." The word came out rough. "My father had just died. You were the only person outside of family I'd let close. And then suddenly you were gone, and there was evidence you'd sold us out. I didn't have room for doubt. So I buried it. Buried everything." I'd known about his father's death. It had happened a month before I disappeared. Cancer, sudden and brutal. Darius had been handling the funeral arrangements when his aunt showed me the evidence. "She timed it perfectly," I said slowly. "You were vulnerable, grieving, not thinking clearly." "Yes." "And she knew I wouldn't fight back because I was pregnant and scared." "Yes." The pieces were clicking together now, forming a picture that made my stomach turn. She needed me gone. But why? "I don't know yet, but—" His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went hard. "Marco's back." "Back?" "Just walked into his house 20 minutes ago. Told his wife he'd been in Miami, but my people in Miami never saw him. He's lying." "Darius." I'm going to talk to him, tonight. He was at that dinner 4 years ago, which means he's either a witness to the fabrication or he's part of it. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He knows me. He might open up if I'm there. Or he might see you as a threat to eliminate. I slid off the bar stool, squaring my shoulders. I'm not a porcelain doll, Darius. I spent 4 years protecting myself and 2 infants from your world. I can handle one conversation with your cousin. It's not just a conversation. If he's involved, if he helped set you up, then he's dangerous, and I won't risk you. You don't get to make that choice for me. Yes, I do. You asked for my protection, and that's what you're getting. I asked for protection for my children, not for myself to be locked in a gilded cage while you handle everything. We stared at each other across the kitchen island, and I could feel the old patterns trying to reassert themselves. Him commanding, me defying, both of us too stubborn to bend. But something had shifted. I wasn't the young, naive girl I'd been 4 years ago, and he wasn't quite the man who'd let me walk away without a fight. I need to be part of this, I said quietly, not just for answers, but because I can't spend the rest of my life wondering if someone's going to come after my children because I didn't help finish this when I had the chance. He was silent for a long moment. Then, if you come, you follow my lead. If I tell you to leave, you leave. If I tell you to stay silent, you stay silent. Agreed. And if anything goes wrong, then you'll burn down the city, I remember. His mouth curved slightly. You were paying attention. I always paid attention to you, Darius. That was the problem. The words hung between us, loaded with history and heat. His gaze dropped to my mouth, then back to my eyes, and I felt the air thicken. We should go, I said, my voice not quite steady, before I lose my nerve. You've never lacked nerve. You'd be surprised what fear can do. I know exactly what fear can do. He moved around the island, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. It sent you running 4 years ago, and now it's brought you back into my world. But this time, Sarah, you're not running alone. My heart was pounding. Is that a promise or a threat? Both. Marco's house was in an upscale suburb, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew everyone and strangers were noticed immediately. We drove past it twice before parking 3 blocks away. He'll have security, Darius said. Family protocol, but they know me, so we'll get in. And then? Then we see if he's a witness or a traitor. Angela had arrived at the safe house as we were leaving, ready to stay with the twins overnight. I checked on them one last time, both still sleeping peacefully, before climbing into Darius's SUV for the drive across town. Now, walking through the quiet streets toward Marco's house, I felt the old fear trying to crawl back up my throat. But I pushed it down, focusing on the steady rhythm of Darius's footsteps beside me. We were half a block away when Darius's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went dark. What? Fire alarm at Marco's house. Just triggered. Coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. We started running. By the time we reached the house, smoke was already visible through the upstairs windows. Neighbors were emerging onto their lawns, and someone was yelling about calling 911. Darius didn't hesitate. He went straight for the front door, testing the handle. Locked. Marco, he pounded on the door. Marco, it's Darius. Open the door. No response. Stand back, he told me, then drove his shoulder into the door. It took 3 hits before the frame splintered and the door swung open. Smoke billowed out, thick and acrid. Darius pulled off his jacket and pressed it to his face, then disappeared into the house. Darius, I started after him, but a hand caught my arm. One of his guards, the scarred one from earlier, had appeared beside me. You stay here. If he's not out in 3 minutes, I go in. 3 minutes might be too long. It's what he'd want. I stood there, helpless and furious, watching smoke pour from the house, while neighbors gathered and sirens wailed in the distance. Every second felt like an hour. 2 minutes, 2.5. At 2 minutes and 45 seconds, Darius emerged, half carrying, half dragging a coughing, stumbling Marco. They made it to the lawn before both collapsed. I was beside them in seconds, helping Marco roll onto his side as he coughed up black smoke. His face was covered in soot, his eyes streaming. Where's Elena? He gasped. My wife. Where's my wife? Miami, Darius said, his voice hoarse. You said she was in Miami. No, she was supposed to be. Another coughing fit cut him off. The fire trucks arrived, followed by an ambulance. Paramedics descended on Marco, checking his vitals, administering oxygen. Darius waved them off when they tried to help him, his focus entirely on his cousin. Marco, he said, gripping the other man's shoulder. Look at me. Where's Elena? I don't know. She said she got a call 2 days ago. Someone said if I didn't disappear for a few days, they'd hurt her. So I went. I went to Miami, stayed at a hotel under a fake name, waited for them to call back. Who called? I don't know. The number was blocked, but they knew things, Darius. Things about our family, about you. His eyes found me, widening. Sarah. Jesus Christ, Sarah Albright. Hi, Marco. You're alive, I thought. Everyone said. What did everyone say? Darius asked, his voice dangerous. That she'd betrayed us and you'd handled it. That she was gone for good. Who told you that? Your aunt. She said Sarah was a traitor, that you'd ordered. He stopped, looking between us. Fuck. She lied, didn't she? Yes. And now someone's trying to kill me because I was at that dinner, the one with the fake photographs. Tell me about the dinner, I said. Please, Marco, it's important. He took a shaky breath, accepting more oxygen from a paramedic before speaking. It was supposed to be all of us. You, me, Elena, Darius's cousin Luca and his wife, and 2 others. But the day of, Luca canceled last minute. Food poisoning, he said. Then one of the other couples had a family emergency. It ended up being just me, Elena, and you. Convenient, Darius said. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but the next day, your aunt asked me about the dinner. Wanted to know who was there, what we talked about, what Sarah said. I told her it was just us 3, and that we mostly talked about baby names because Elena was pregnant. And she never showed you the photographs? No. Why would... Understanding dawned. The fake ones. The ones that made it look like Sarah was meeting someone. They didn't show me or Elena because we'd know it was bullshit. Exactly. Fuck. Marco accepted more oxygen, his hands shaking. She set this up. Your aunt set all of this up, and now she's trying to clean up loose ends. Where's Elena? I asked again, urgently. Marco, where is your wife? She was supposed to come back yesterday. I called her this morning, and she said she was on her way home. That was 8 hours ago. Darius was already on his phone. Find Elena Marcase. Last known location, Miami. Supposed to be traveling back today. Find her now. He listened for a moment, his expression growing darker. When? A pause. Jesus Christ. He looked at Marco. Elena's car was found abandoned at a rest stop 2 hours outside the city. No sign of her, no sign of struggle, but her phone and purse were left inside. Marco's face went white. No, 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 no. We'll find her, Darius said firmly. But I need you to think. Is there anything else? Anything my aunt said or did around that time that seemed off? Marco stopped, his eyes widening. She introduced you to someone, right after Sarah disappeared. A girl from one of the old families. Said it was time you thought about an alliance marriage, about securing your legacy. My stomach dropped. Who? Isabella Torino. Her father controls half the port operations in the city. Your aunt said a marriage between you 2 would cement the Marchese family's power for generations. Darius had gone very still. And I told her I wasn't interested. Yeah, but she kept pushing. Brought Isabella to family dinners. Had her at business meetings. It was obvious what she was doing. She wanted him to move on, I said slowly. Wanted him to forget about me and marry someone politically useful. But as long as he was looking for me, or grieving me, or whatever he was doing, he wouldn't consider it. So she made sure I'd never look for you, Darius finished. Made sure I'd believe you were dead, or as good as dead. Made sure I'd be alone and isolated enough to eventually consider her suggestion. And when you found me again, I became a threat to her plans. You, me, and the twins. We're all threats to the alliance she's been building for 4 years. The fire was being brought under control now. Water streaming from hoses, smoke turning from black to gray. But I barely noticed. Everything was clicking into place with horrible clarity. She needs to eliminate us, I said. All of us, including Marco and Elena, because they can testify about the fake evidence. And probably anyone else who might question the story, Darius added grimly. How do we stop her? We prove it. We gather evidence, we expose her lies, and we make sure she can never hurt anyone again. How? He looked at me, and I saw the predator beneath the polished surface. We give her exactly what she wants. We make her think she's winning, and then we burn her fucking world down. Marco started to say something, but Darius cut him off. You're going to the hospital, getting checked out, and then you're going into protective custody. Elena, too, once we find her. You'll find her? Yes. Promise me, Darius. Promise me you'll bring my wife home. I promise. And when this is over, my aunt will pay for every person she's hurt, every lie she's told, every life she's destroyed. The paramedics were insisting Marco get in the ambulance now. He went, still coughing, still terrified, but alive. Darius and I stood on the lawn, watching the ambulance pull away, surrounded by neighbors and firefighters and the wreckage of what should have been a simple conversation. She's escalating, I said quietly. She knows we're getting close, which means she'll get reckless, make mistakes. He turned to me, soot-streaked and grim. We need to move carefully. Get you and the twins somewhere more secure while I... No. He blinked. No? No, Darius. I'm not hiding while you handle this. I'm done being the person everyone protects or manipulates or moves around like a chess piece. I stepped closer, my heart pounding but my voice steady. I have an idea, and you're not going to like it. His eyes narrowed. I'm listening. I contact your aunt. Directly. Tell her I want to meet, just the two of us. Absolutely not. Let me finish. I held up a hand. I tell her I want out. That I'll disappear again. Take the twins somewhere you'll never find us. If she gives me money and a clean identity. Make her think I'm still the scared girl who ran 4 years ago. Sarah, she'll kill you. Not immediately. She'll want information first. What I've told you, what we've discovered. Whether I'm working with you or trying to escape you. She's too smart to eliminate me without assessing the full threat. You're betting your life on that assessment. I'm betting on the fact that she can't resist. I could see it now, clear as day. She spent 4 years building this perfect plan. She thinks she's untouchable. When I come to her scared and begging, she won't be able to help herself. She'll gloat. She'll explain. She'll tell me exactly how clever she's been. Darius was shaking his head. And if you're wrong, if she just puts a bullet in your head the moment you're alone with her, then you'll have Angela and the twins, and you'll make sure they disappear like you promised. I met his eyes. But I'm not wrong. I spent 4 years studying how powerful people think, Darius. Your aunt is arrogant. She wants credit for what she's done, even if only one person knows, especially if that person is me, the woman she destroyed. There has to be another way. Name it. He couldn't. I watched him work through options, discarding each one, his jaw getting tighter with every second. You'd be alone with her, he said finally. Vulnerable. No, I'd be wired. You'd be listening to every word. The moment she says something incriminating, you move in with enough witnesses to make it stick. She'll have security, guards who are loyal to her. So bring more guards, ones who are loyal to you. Have them positioned close enough to intervene if things go wrong. I softened my voice slightly. I know this is dangerous, but it's also our best shot. She won't confess to you. You're the head of the family, her nephew, the person she's been manipulating. But me? I'm just the girl who got in her way. She'll tell me everything. He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the war in his eyes. Protection versus pragmatism. His need to keep me safe versus the reality that this might be the only way. I hate this, he said finally. I know. If anything goes wrong, then you intervene, fast and hard. But Darius, we need this. We need her confession, her explanation, something concrete that proves what she did. Otherwise, it's just our word against hers, and she's been his trusted advisor for decades. Your word against hers, he corrected quietly. I'd believe you. The admission made my chest tight. Then trust me now. Trust that I can do this. He was silent, his hands flexing at his sides like he wanted to reach for me but didn't quite dare. When? He asked finally. Tomorrow, I'll reach out in the morning, say I need to talk. Somewhere public enough that she won't suspect a trap, private enough that she'll feel comfortable talking. Where? I thought fast. The cafe, my cafe. I'll tell her I'm packing up, getting ready to run again. It's neutral ground, familiar to me, and she'll read it as weakness, that I'm not confident enough to meet her on her turf. She'll bring security. Let her. We'll have the advantage of knowing the space. I know every entrance, every blind spot, every place someone could hide. I paused, including where you could position yourself to listen and record everything. His expression shifted, calculating now instead of just protective. The storage room, behind the kitchen. Exactly. There's a vent that carries sound from the main floor. You'd hear everything. And if she searches the place first, then I delay, make coffee, give you time to reposition. I've been handling difficult customers and tight situations for 4 years, Darius. I know how to read a room and adapt. He dragged a hand through his hair, leaving soot streaks. This is insane. Yes. You're not trained for this. You're not. I'm not helpless. My voice came out sharper than I intended. I survived 4 years in hiding with infant twins. I built a business from nothing. I've been making life or death decisions every day since the moment your aunt showed me that evidence. This is just one more. Except this time, if you're wrong, I can't protect you. You can, you will, but you have to let me be the one to walk into the fire first. I stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. I need to do this, Darius. Not just for the evidence, but for me. I need to look her in the eye and know that I'm not the scared girl she sent running anymore. Something in his expression cracked open. You were never just scared. Even then, you were brave. You were surviving. Then let me be brave now. Let me finish this. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we weren't saying. The history, the hurt, the way we'd been forced apart and thrown back together. The 2 children sleeping in a safe house who deserved better than to grow up in the shadow of a 4-year-old lie. Okay, he said finally. We do it your way, but with conditions. Name them. You wear a wire, not just audio, video. 2, something small enough that she won't spot it in a casual pat-down. Agreed. I'm not alone in that storage room. I bring at least 2 of my best people, positioned to move the second anything goes wrong. Agreed. And if at any point I hear something that makes me think you're in immediate danger, I don't wait for more evidence. I come out and we end it right there. Even if it means losing her confession. Even then. Because no amount of evidence is worth your life, Sarah. Not to me. The words hung in the air between us, weighted with meaning I wasn't ready to examine. Okay, I said quietly. Those are fair conditions. And one more thing. What? He moved closer, and I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze. When this is over, when we've taken her down, and the twins are safe, and you don't have to look over your shoulder anymore, we talk. Really talk. About what happened 4 years ago. About what's happening now. About what comes next. My heart was racing. Darius, I'm not asking for promises. I'm not asking you to forgive me or trust me or anything else you're not ready for. But I am asking for honesty. One real conversation. No running, no hiding. Can you give me that? I thought about saying no. About keeping my walls up. About protecting myself from whatever this was growing between us. But the truth was, I was tired of running. Tired of being afraid. Tired of pretending that seeing him with our children didn't make something in my chest ache. Yes, I said. When this is over, we talk. Good. He stepped back, putting careful distance between us. Now let's get back to the twins. You should be with them tonight. What about you? I have calls to make, security to arrange, equipment to acquire. His mouth curved slightly. And a storage room to inspect for the best listening positions. Despite everything, the fear, the danger, the impossibility of what we were about to do, I felt my own lips twitch. Always thorough. It's kept me alive this long. We walked back to the SUV in silence, the night air cool against my skin, sirens still echoing in the distance. Somewhere in this city, his aunt was sleeping peacefully, confident in her power and her plans. Tomorrow, I'd make her believe I was broken and desperate, and then we'd break her instead. Back at the safe house, I checked on the twins, still sleeping, Rio with one arm thrown over his head, Leah curled around her purple elephant. Angela sat in a chair between their beds, alert and watchful. "Everything okay?" she whispered. "Define okay," I said softly. "But they're safe. That's what matters." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. She'd been doing this work long enough to know that safe was sometimes the best you could hope for. I kissed both twins gently, then retreated to the hallway where Darius waited. "I'm staying tonight," he said. "Downstairs. I won't disturb them, but I need to be here." I should have argued, should have maintained boundaries, but the truth was, I didn't want to be alone tonight either. "Okay," I said. "There's a couch in the living room. I've slept in worse places." We stood there in the hallway, neither quite ready to move apart. "Sarah," he said finally, "what you're doing tomorrow, proposing this plan, walking into danger, that took more courage than you know. Or more stupidity. No, courage. The kind that actually matters." He reached out, his fingers brushing my jaw in a touch so brief I might have imagined it. "The twins are lucky to have you as their mother. I was lucky to have you at all, even for the time I did." "Was?" His eyes held mine. I am lucky. Even if you hate me for what I believed, for what I let happen, I'm still lucky that I found you again." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to respond to the raw honesty in his voice. So I just nodded and stepped back before I could do something stupid, like close the distance and kiss him. "Good night, Darius. Good night, Sarah. Sleep. Tomorrow we finish this." I went to the room Angela had prepared for me, but sleep was a long time coming. I lay in the dark, listening to the house settle, thinking about the plan I'd proposed, and the man downstairs who'd once been my entire world. Tomorrow I'd face the woman who'd destroyed us, and maybe, if we survived, we'd finally have a chance to build something new from the ashes. I woke to small feet padding across hardwood and a weight settling on the bed beside me. "Mama," Leah whispered. "Are you awake?" I opened my eyes to find both twins staring at me with identical expressions of concern. "I am now," I said, pulling them both into a hug. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Rio said, but his voice was tight. "We just wanted to make sure you were still here." My heart clenched. "I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere without you. Promise. Promise." By 8 a.m., the twins were having breakfast with Angela, and I was in the dining room with Darius, a laptop, and a burner phone. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." I picked up the phone. "What's her number?" He rattled it off, and I dialed before I could lose my nerve. She answered on the second ring. "Yes?" Her voice, cultured, cold, sent ice down my spine. "It's Sarah Albright. I need to talk to you." Silence. Then, "Well, this is unexpected. I know Darius found me. I know he's asking questions. And I know you're the only person who can help me disappear again before this gets worse." "Help you disappear?" Her tone was amused now. "Why would I do that?" "Because if you don't, I'll tell him everything, and he'll believe me, because I have proof." A pause. "What kind of proof?" "The kind that shows the bank account was fake, the messages were fabricated, the photographs were doctored." I let my voice shake. "I've been collecting evidence for 4 years, and if you don't help me, I'll give it all to him." "You're bluffing." "Am I? You want to take that risk?" Another pause. I could hear her calculating. "Where?" she asked finally. "My cafe. Today at 2 p.m. Come alone, and we'll talk about what it'll take for me to vanish again." "You're hardly in a position to make demands, dear." "Neither are you. Not if you want to keep Darius from finding out what you did." I took a breath. 2 p.m., just you and me. If you bring security, I walk. "Fine. But Sarah? If you're lying, if this is some kind of trap, I'll make sure those children of yours grow up without a mother." For a second, I saw red. Nothing but Leah's curls and Rio's serious eyes, and the image of them standing alone at a grave that should never exist. My hand tightened on the phone. Perfectly clear, she hung up. "She bought it," Darius said quietly. "How do you know?" Because she threatened the twins. She only does that when she's feeling confident. His expression went dark. And when this is over, she'll pay for every threat she's made. The equipment arrived at 9, a tiny camera embedded in a pendant, with a mic woven into the design, and a receiver Darius would monitor from the storage room. At 1:25, Darius pulled me close. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way. Without her confession, it's our word against hers. I looked up at him. I need to do this, not just for evidence, but for me. I need to prove I'm not the scared girl she sent running. You were never just scared. You were surviving. Then let me finish surviving. He searched my face, then nodded. The second I think you're in danger. You'll come out, I know, I touched his face. Thank you for believing me. Always. He disappeared into the storage room, and I was alone. I made coffee to give my hands something to do. At 1:58, a black town car pulled up outside. Valentina emerged with the grace of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. Her driver stayed behind the wheel, engine idling, but no extra muscle stepped out. I unlocked the door and let her in. Sarah! She smiled like a snake coiling. You look well. Motherhood agrees with you. Let's skip the pleasantries. Do you want coffee? No, I don't plan to be here long. She surveyed the cafe with disdain. This is what you've been doing? Running a coffee shop. Building a life. Is there a difference? She moved to a table. Tell me, what evidence do you think you have? Bank records showing the account was open 3 weeks before you showed it to Darius. Metadata on the photographs proving they were edited. Phone records proving I never called anyone named VR. Her expression didn't change. Impressive. You've been busy. I had 4 years and motivation. Yet you waited until now. Why? Because I was safe, hidden. But then Darius found me. I wrapped my arms around myself. I know you're planning something. Marco, Elena, someone following my children. You're cleaning up loose ends. Am I? Don't play. Games, Valentina. So let's make a deal. Give me money and new identities, and I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. She laughed, cold and sharp. You think it's that simple? You think I'll just hand you cash and trust you to stay quiet? You did it before. Before, you were a stupid pregnant girl who thought she was in love. You're not that girl anymore, are you? No, I'm not. Which is exactly why I can't let you leave. She moved closer. 4 years ago, you were a problem easily solved. Run away, stay quiet. Raise your bastards in poverty. But now you've become dangerous. Because Darius found me. Because he cares about you again. Or still. I'm not sure he ever stopped. Her eyes glittered. He looks at you the way he used to, and that look is worth more than any evidence you think you have. I don't understand. Of course you don't. You never saw the bigger picture. She sat, crossing her legs. 4 years ago, I was building an alliance between the Marchesi family and the Torinos through marriage. It would have solidified our power for generations. But Darius was distracted, infatuated with a nobody cafe worker. So you got rid of me. I removed an obstacle. It's what you do in life. You identify problems and solve them. She smiled. And it worked beautifully. You ran. Darius grieved. And eventually he started to consider Isabella Torino. It took 3 years, but he was finally coming around. And then you reappeared. With his children. With his bastards. Suddenly all my work is at risk because he's looking at you like you hung the moon. She leaned forward. I considered taking them, using them as leverage. But he's already so attached he'd burn down the city to get them back. My blood ran cold. You're insane. I'm practical. She stood. Which brings us to today. The only way to solve this problem is to remove you, permanently. If you kill me, Darius will know. Will he? You're going to die in a tragic accident. Gas leak in this poorly maintained cafe. Robbery gone wrong. These things happen. She moved toward the door. He'll mourn. Then I'll comfort him. Remind him you were always fragile, always running. And eventually, he'll move on. With Isabella, with the alliance, with the future I've been building. She reached for the door handle. The storage room door exploded open. Darius emerged like a storm, his face a mask of cold fury. Step away from that door, Aunt Valentina. She froze. For the first time, I saw genuine fear crack through her composure. Darius, she said, recovering fast. What a surprise. Sarah called me here with wild accusations. I heard everything. He held up a small receiver, the twin to the pendant at my throat, its tiny light blinking. Every threat, every confession, every word about your alliance and your plan to murder the mother of my children. You don't understand. I was protecting you. By fabricating evidence, by sending away the woman I loved when she was pregnant, by threatening my children. His voice dropped to something deadly. By planning to murder Sarah and make it look like an accident. She was a liability. You were protecting your ambition. He moved closer and she backed up. Marco's in protective custody. Elena's been found, alive and shaken, but safe. And I have recordings of you admitting to everything. So tell me, how do you plan to talk your way out of this? She looked between us, composure shattering. You set me up. We gave you rope, I said quietly, and you took it. You little bitch. She lunged for me, but Darius caught her arm, spinning her away. His people emerged from across the street. Take her to the Riverside property, Darius said. She's to be kept comfortable, but under constant surveillance. You can't do this, Valentina hissed. I'm family. You stop being family the moment you put your ambition above my happiness. His voice was ice. You manipulated me, destroyed the woman I loved, and kept me from my children for 4 years. They took her out, still protesting. The door closed, and suddenly the cafe was quiet except for my pounding heart. I stood there shaking, the adrenaline crash hitting all at once. Sarah! Darius was beside me instantly. Are you okay? I'm fine. My legs gave out. He caught me, pulling me against his chest. I felt his heart racing, the tension in every muscle. You were so brave, he murmured, when she moved toward that door. But you were there. Always. I'll always come for you. He pulled back to look at me. Did we get everything? Everything. She confessed to fabricating evidence, the alliance plan, planning your murder. It's all recorded. She's done, Sarah. She can't hurt you or the twins ever again. The relief was so intense, it felt like pain. It's really over? The threat from her? Yes. We still need to handle the Torinos, but that's manageable. The twins, I said suddenly, I need to see them. Already arranged. Angela's bringing them here now. The door chimed. 2 small faces pressed against the window, and then the twins were running toward me. I unlocked the door and caught them as they launched themselves at me. Mama! Leah was vibrating. Are you done with work? I'm done, baby. All done. Rio wrapped his arms around my waist. You came back. I told you I would. I looked up to find Darius watching us with an expression that made my chest tight. He looked like a man who'd been given something precious. Can we have dinner here? Leah asked. In the cafe? Yeah, I said. We can do that. We made pasta together, the twins helping, Darius hovering nearby. For a few hours, we pretended we were a normal family having a normal dinner. By 8, both twins were yawning. We carried them to the SUV. I'd like to take you all to my place tonight, Darius said. Not the safe house, my actual home. It's secure, comfortable, and you and I can finally have that conversation. I hesitated, then nodded. Okay, for tonight. His place was beautiful, high ceilings, warm wood, space to breathe. We carried the sleeping twins upstairs to a room that had been prepared with 2 beds, stuffed animals, a nightlight. When did you do this? I whispered. Yesterday. I wanted to be ready. We tucked them in, then went downstairs. He poured us both whiskey, and we sat on the couch with careful space between us. So, he said, we talk. 4 years ago, I should have questioned the evidence, should have given you a chance to defend yourself. I let my grief turn me into someone who could believe the worst of you. His hands clenched. I'm sorry. It'll never be enough, but I'm so fucking sorry. I'm sorry too, for running, for keeping the twins from you. I was scared and made the choice I thought would keep us alive, but it meant you missed 4 years. Maybe we can build something new, starting now. He shifted closer. I want to be their father, really be their father, and I want you. Not because of the twins, not out of obligation. I want you because when I look at you, I see the woman I fell in love with. I see someone strong and brave, and I want the chance to earn my way back into your life. My heart was racing. Darius, I'm not asking for promises, just a chance. Let me prove I'm not the man who let you go. I looked at him, saw the hope and fear in his eyes, the vulnerability. Okay, I said. Okay, yes, we try. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. He moved closer, his hand cupping my cheek. I'm going to kiss you now. If you don't want me to, tell me to stop. I didn't tell him to stop. His mouth found mine in a kiss that was soft and searching and devastating. It tasted like 4 years of longing, like coming home after being lost. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat and deepened the kiss, his arms wrapping around me and pulling me into his lap. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I've missed you, he murmured against my mouth. Every single day. I missed you too, even when I hated you. He laughed, rough and real. Fair. What happens now? Now we deal with the Torinos. Make sure they understand the alliance is dead, and any retaliation will be met with force. His hand traced patterns on my back. And after that, we figure out what our life looks like, where you want to live, whether you keep the cafe, how we tell the twins I'm their father. That's a lot of logistics. We have time. And Sarah? I meant what I said. I'll walk away from the alliance, from all of it, to keep you and the twins safe. He pulled back to look at me. You're my legacy. You're what matters. I kissed him again, softer, a promise. So we're doing this, really doing this, really doing this, together. Together, I agreed. And for the first time in 4 years, I let myself believe we could make it work. 6 months later, the cafe was busier than ever. New location, better neighborhood, better security. Darius had insisted, and I'd agreed. This place was still mine, but better now. Mama, Leah appeared at my elbow, apron dusted with flour. Papa says the cookies are ready, Papa. It had taken the twins 3 weeks to start calling him that. One day Rio had asked, serious and thoughtful, if it was okay to call him Papa since he was their dad and he lived with them now. Darius had looked like someone had punched him in the chest in the best way possible, before nodding and pulling Rio into a hug. Now it was as natural as breathing. Tell Papa I'll be there in a minute, I said. I finished with a customer and headed to the back, where Darius stood at the oven with Rio on a step stool beside him. Both wore matching expressions of concentration as they checked the cookies. How do they look? I asked. Perfect, Darius said, pulling me against his side. Just like their mother. Smooth. I have my moments. The Torino situation had been handled months ago. Isabella's father had agreed to a truce in exchange for Darius publicly ending alliance discussions and compensating them. It had cost money and political capital, but it was worth it. Valentina was in a secure private facility upstate. She'd never be prosecuted. Too much would come out, but she'd never be free either. Marco and Elena had reconciled and moved to Connecticut, expecting their second child. And us? I'd moved into Darius's house 4 months ago. The twins had adjusted instantly, thrilled by the space and the pool. I'd taken longer, old habits died hard, but Darius was always there, pulling me back when I woke at 3 a.m., convinced I needed to run, reminding me with his presence that I didn't have to anymore. Mama, can we stay with Papa tonight? Leah asked. It was a running joke now, the twins asking if they could stay with Papa even though we all lived together. I think we can arrange that, I said solemnly. Darius caught the bag of flour Leah nearly knocked over, laughing. Careful, Piccola. I watched them work together, Darius directing, the twins helping, and felt something settle in my chest. This was real. This family we were building. This life we were creating from the ashes. It wasn't perfect. We still had hard conversations and bad days, but it was ours. Hey, Darius said, appearing at my shoulder. You okay? You've got that look. What look? The one where you're thinking too hard. He turned me to face him. Talk to me. I'm just. I looked at our children, covered in flour and joy. I'm happy. And it's weird because for so long, I didn't think I was allowed to be. And now? Now I think maybe we get both. Survival and happiness. I looked up at him. We get to live, not just survive. He kissed me, soft and sweet, in the middle of my cafe kitchen, while our children squabbled over who got to lick the spoon. Yes, he said against my mouth. We do. I love you, I whispered. The first time I'd said it since we'd found each other again. His eyes went bright. I love you too. I never stopped. He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I felt the truth of it in every place our bodies touched. This wasn't the desperate love of two people too young to know better. This was something earned, something built on truth and trust, and the choice to keep choosing each other. Papa, Mama, you're supposed to be helping, Rio called. We broke apart, laughing. Coming, buddy, Darius said. I took his hand as we walked back to our children, our chaotic, beautiful kitchen, our life. 4 years ago, I'd walked back into Darius Marchese's world terrified and desperate. Now I was building a new world with him, one where I was seen, valued, powerful in ways that mattered, one where my children were safe and loved by both their parents, one where I got to choose every single day to stay, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And that choice, that freedom to choose, was worth everything. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next Mafia love story. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your feedback really helps me make these even better for you. Thank you for letting my stories keep you company. It truly means more than you know.